welcome back to another episode of Don't Blame Me. This might not feel like a really exciting day for you guys. This is a really exciting day for Melissa and I because I have been working for the last 3 weeks. We haven't recorded. We haven't recorded in like a month almost. Right?
Yeah, we it was like the 26th, so
yeah, 3
weeks ago.
3 weeks.
So we recorded a few episodes, which we haven't done in a while.
I know.
And we're just used to seeing each other all the time. Even when we weren't recording episodes every week, we'd still work out. So I'm used to seeing you at least once a week.
No, truly, the longest we've gone without seeing each other was when you went home for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that's it though.
Yeah.
That's it. And that has been going on since however long we started the podcast. I'm used to seeing you every day for the last 3 years?
Yeah. 4.
So.
Because it was 17, 18, 19, 20. Oh, no, 3. My math was off. You were right.
My math was great. It was also, I just word vomited 3 and I was like, who knows if it'll be right. So this is really exciting for us. We already started recording and then we just recorded an 11-minute clip of us just gossiping and being like, we can't put this in the episode.
And so that was before, we've been talking for the last 40 minutes.
Yes. So you guys are missing some great tea.
Yeah.
Fuck. How do we start this? Oh, this is an advice podcast.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys are new here and you want to call for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. And international listeners, you can send an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. What other housekeeping things? We haven't said any of them. What are some things we'd like to share with the class that we can share with the class? We're not keeping any secret projects from you guys. It was mostly just me being shady about someone who texted me.
Yeah.
Oh, you moved?
I'm in my new spot.
How good does it look? If you guys aren't watching the video, switch on to the video. See this? The brightness, the color. I'm also loving the color coordination of the yellow and pink pillows. Very on brand.
Thank you. They're purple.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, they are. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ooh, those look soft. Let's hop into our first call. Oh, I can't wait to give real advice.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. Probably no guests because of COVID. I'm going to stay where I work. If you could just beep out the state, I'd really appreciate that. So I'm a 21-year-old Libra, and I will be graduating in December with my bachelor's in science and human development and family studies. Right now I'm working for Democratic senators for their digital team. I love my job, and I'm really interested in pursuing both the digital communication and politics portion of my job after I graduate. Originally, I was planning on getting my bachelor's in science of nursing after this degree, but I just really can't see myself pursuing a career in nursing. My mom, who's a Leo, is really pushing me to go down the BSN path. If I was giving advice to a friend, I would probably just tell them to sit down and talk to their mom about the situation, but my situation's a little bit different because I have type 1 diabetes, and a career in nursing would give me much better pay and insurance, especially starting out. The pay is an issue for my mom because she's really scared I won't be able to be financially stable, and the insurance is something that worries both of us. I don't know how much you guys know about the cost of insulin or diabetes care in general in America, but without insurance is about $40,000 to $50,000 a year. I have really good insurance under my mom right now, and it's still really expensive. My supplies runs $500 to $600 every 3 months. I would just love some advice from a third party on what I should do in this situation, how to talk to my mom, what you guys would do in this situation, really any advice, just on kind of how to pick a practical job versus a job that you'll actually love. Thank you guys so much.
Jesus, this is awful. America and prescription drugs, the whole healthcare system, you have to choose between doing something you love and doing a job just so that you can have insurance is just fucked up.
It's insane. And even the thing that I think is the most ridiculous is I'm on Adderall for ADHD, and Adderall is notoriously expensive without insurance, and to get to your deductible and all of that sort of stuff. And I won't be able to function like a normal human being without it, but I won't die. And it is not even a fraction, like it would not cost me that much a year. And like, that's the thing that I think is so fucking insane. So, serendipitously enough, I know someone who is an actor who literally went to nursing school because they're a diabetic and they needed the insurance. Because that was like, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, acting is their passion. They love it. They still audition. They still like work, and they do that stuff when they can and when they need to. And I'm not sure if they're done with their schooling specifically yet. But that's literally why they were going into like working on like doing nursing too. I think the thing I would say for you is I don't know if there's like is there a way that you could do both? Like, is there a way that you could have a job in nursing that's not like being like a nurse at a hospital? Could you do something that is maybe a little bit more fulfilling for you?
That's what
like,
I was thinking too.
Oh, you doing like a hospice sort of thing, or doing something that is more part-time, or like being like a personal nurse for someone a couple days a week, and then volunteering and doing other stuff in politics as well. Because I think you're in a position where you could do so much like great, like advocating for like universal health care.
Yeah, but unfortunately, health is a political issue here in America. So I feel like there is a job somewhere that bridges the two.
Yeah, I agree.
Even if it's like, if you're working at the hospital in the social media department, because most hospitals have social media. Then you can be like, I'm just like, I don't know if this exists or if you could help this exist or something where it's like, ask a nurse, where it's not like it's like a social media thing. It's not like you giving like specific health advice, but knowing that you can come from like educated point of view on the topics. I feel like there's something that there's a job that you can do both that bridges the gap. And it might take some time to figure out what that is, or even bringing it to somebody and saying, this is what I want to do, or creating your own. I know creating your own actually doesn't work right now because you're trying to get your health insurance, but
because you can work in the medical field and reap the benefits of almost all of the benefits of health insurance for people who also work in the medical field without actually, like, you could potentially work if you worked for like a medical school in like advocacy or something like that. I think you could. I would think, I don't have a ton of knowledge. All I know is I grew up with a parent who worked in the medical field, but like not like a doctor, not like a a nurse or anything like that. So I like had great insurance as a kid growing up because of that. And so I wonder if there is a way for you to like be able to do both. And I would also say, I think your education, everything that you're doing, I think the great thing about politics and like working in politics is so much of it is volunteer based. So I think even if you take like, okay, so like right now I need to like set myself up. So worst case scenario that that healthcare continues to be incredibly expensive, and like there's no changes or advancements happen in like the payment of insulin and stuff like that. This is like how I'm setting myself up. But if you maintain the contacts in like the political world and all of that sort of stuff, just like human experience and like life experience is experience for politics and advocating for that kind of stuff. So I think if you can prioritize your physical health and leaving space for you to do these things that you really like, that make that's like a career that would really like make you super happy and like really fulfilled, finding a way that you always have room for that, and that there's room for that to expand and become your full-time job and fingers crossed, let's manifest that shit when we get to a place in the world where you don't have to be concerned about affording to survive. Like, because it is like, it's a really, really tough thing. And I think it sucks that it's a choice, but And yeah, I know people who've done this exact same thing, who've like gone into nursing not because they like it's their passion, but because like, oh well, my passion I can't sustain that. Like I'm not going to be able to afford it, which is batshit fucking crazy. I wonder if there's also any what insurance is like working for any like I guess you have to be. I should really understand because my dad has a nonprofit, but I don't really understand how that works like insurance wise with a nonprofit. Like if you were able to work for something, do social media for like the national, like a diabetes, like something that's like I forget what it's called, the one that Nick Jonas is a spokesperson for. But if you were working for something like that does a lot of political initiative and like trying to write bills and do all of that stuff to like pass or like advocating for like knowledge and understanding in the classrooms and with peers and all of that stuff. I wonder what the health insurance is like for that, but I don't know because I guess those are nonprofits. America is trash.
So trash. It's stupid.
I'm pissed off for you.
Me too.
But sending you lots of positive thoughts through this, which sounds like so corny and shitty, but like it does suck to kind of feel like you're choosing. You don't really get, you know what I mean? Like you're not like you're choosing between something you don't want to have to choose between.
Hi, again, Melissa. I got cut off the first time, so I'm going to try to be a lot quicker. I'm 20 years old. I'm a Capricorn. I'm dating an Aquarius, and I've been dating for 9 months now. Basically, I'm calling about how to navigate the feeling of dating a musician who seems to mostly write a lot of songs about his exes. I feel like I have a really healthy relationship with my boyfriend, and we have a lot of great communication. But due to some communication errors in the past, in the beginning of the relationship, I felt a little compared to his exes. So then that kind of stemmed some insecurity and jealousy issues with me. And I've never really been in a relationship where my partner's really been friends with their exes or thought about their exes. And the only time I have been in that situation is with the one person who cheated on me with their ex. But in my case now, my boyfriend's 4 years older than me, and he's friends with his exes. So that's kind of unfamiliar territory for me. But on top of that, he writes a lot of songs about his exes. And he produces these songs, and he writes them, he releases them. And some of them were written years ago, but also some of them are still being written today and released today. So this has kind of caused his exes to be like a taboo topic where we can't really talk about them, but I'm starting to kind of feel bad about that because I want to hear about those formative times in his life because relationships are such a big part in our lives, and I also want to talk about mine, my past experiences without feeling like a hypocrite. But I just feel weird knowing that he kind of has to put himself there mentally all the time, like in this place of heartbreak and love and devastation and all of those feelings of in a breakup, and he has to write about that in a song almost every single day. So just being with someone who's constantly thinking about their exes, I'm just not sure how to navigate that feeling, and I don't want to censor him. I don't want him to not write songs about his exes, and I don't want it to make him feel like he's not allowed to have these thoughts or feelings. I just kind of want to find a way to cope with my feelings and insecurities without sacrificing him being able to talk about what he wants to. And I've talked about this with my therapist and have gotten a lot better about getting weird whenever he mentions an ex, but it's still something kind of difficult that we're both not sure how to navigate, and he reassures me he does a great job, but at the end of the day, I still kind of don't know how to feel about being with someone who's thinking about their exes all the time as opposed to usually someone who's kind of thinks more forward, but he has to, use them as muses for his music. That's basically it. It causes a lot of anxiety for me, but I'm just trying to figure it out and see what ways I can talk myself down from those ledges. Thank you so much for your help. I'm not trying to make a mountain out of a molehill, but I just wanted some perspective and advice on it. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
My number one question, is he writing songs about you? And are they happy ones?
That's what I was going to say, because you've said that he's writing songs about heartache and like breaking up and stuff. So, I mean, like, yes, he has to put his mind in that mindset, but
it's not a good mindset.
It's not a good mindset. It's not like he's thinking about them in like a positive light. And if he's not writing bad songs about you, that's a plus as well. But I do get that he is constantly thinking about them. But if you're going to constantly think about somebody, at least you're making money off of them.
True. And you're not thinking about like the good stuff.
Times. Yeah.
I think if he's writing songs about you that are like that have this clear distinction between like, oh, okay, these are heartbreak sad songs, and obviously you're not going to draw from like our relationship to write that kind of stuff, and that, or just like sad songs, is he like Adele, like are sad songs like his thing? The other thing I would say is like, I don't know how much you've had conversations with him about it, because I think I have friends who are musicians, and like a lot of the time they'll like, you know, draw from a specific experience, but then also a lot of the time it's like, oh, you know that feeling when, as opposed to like, oh, this person I specifically dated and this is what went down between us, and all of that kind of stuff. And I would also just, so I think like talking about exes, you guys, they've been together for like almost a year, I think she said something similar to that. I think that like talking about exes, I think talking about like your past and like talking about like formative years and like memories or specific things that like your exes happen to be at, like great, that's like totally fine. And I think if there's like a specific thing with an ex that like you want to talk about because like it's coming back up with your current relationship, but I'm also a little bit curious how he just like brings up his exes all of like in that way, because like at a certain point it's just kind of unnecessary in a way.
She said that they're still friends.
Oh, okay. So they're still friends, but he's writing these heartbreak songs about them. Does it feel kind of like the one that got away? There's still a lot of sad feelings there, and like he's writing these essentially like, not take me back, but like, you know, like there's still a lot of emotions there, and they're still in his life. Oh yeah, that's weird. That's weird to me. Yeah. But I'm also like, you know, a jealous person. But
as if you want to go like off astrological signs, like as a Aquarius, like I can completely shut off those feelings and they mean nothing. Like I can write about the type, like about, like I use a lot of experiences that I go through in my writing, and like I can still be friends with somebody and use those experiences when I write. So like I completely get where he's coming from. Yeah.
I think the thing is you just have to kind of honor your feelings, and I don't think that like this idea that you need to kind of like push through it. If you don't feel comfortable, like if you're fine, if it's kind of like, okay, I know he has to think about his exes and they're in his music and they're friends with him and all that stuff. So like that's as much as I can handle. I don't want to just have like random conversations about them or reminisce talking about them out of those two contexts, out of the fact that like they're still in his life, they're still friends, and he's writing music. Like I just don't want any more than that. Like my plate is full of them. I think that's fine. Like I don't think you need to like power through and just kind of like continue to have conversations if you don't feel comfortable with it. And it might just be like, this is just overwhelming and it's too much. Like, can you be okay with him writing songs with them? And are you also okay with him being friends with his exes? And then digest that before you decide like, oh, and I want to be cool talking about them all of the time. Cause like, I don't think you need to be. But I think if he really like, I know people who like, cause you're not like, you're friends with your exes, but you're also not in like a, oh, fuck everyone else. Like regardless how anyone else like feels comfortability, like these are my friends. Like you're very much like a, okay, is their new partners or like their new girl, are they okay with being friends? And like if someone I'm talking to, like is this comfortable for everybody? But if he's kind of one of those, you know, musicians who like loves to be tortured and like loves to like just be fucking sad and like have all that, I have friends who are like that too, who kind of are just like, oh, fuck what anyone else thinks. Like this is what I need for my art. And in that case, I would just say, bye.
Yeah.
Because your comfort should also be like a factor in this. And like, I think it's already a lot to digest. And I think like you don't need to like go above and beyond than what you want to or feel comfortable with. And also doesn't make you a hypocrite by you talking about your like, and if he makes you feel like that, that's just like gaslighting as fuck to be like, what? Like you're allowed to have feelings about, hey, this makes me feel a certain way when like we talk about your exes when I already know that you're thinking of them and you're already doing all this stuff and like blah blah blah, and then we talk about memories with them even more. It just kind of feels like a little like stuck in the past and really wistful when I'm like not a part of your past. But yeah, I also would assume that if this doesn't get better, I think you talk about exes at like the first like third of your like the first like couple months of being together, of like once you're together, that's when like the ex conversations come up, and it can kind of like there's some like jealousy there and all of that stuff, but it like fades out, not just your feelings, but like as much as you talk about them, because like you already know in a way. So I think if it doesn't get better, then I would be like if Monts and I still talk about our exes like the same amount that like we did when we first started, like I'm like, oh, I know who that bitch is. Okay. Not in like a bad way, but like, I know who she is. I know who that is. I know who she is. Like, okay, cool. Got it down. But like, you don't need to keep going. And tell them to take a creative writing class. Like, just like draw on feelings. Not like, can you imagine if the songs are like really fucking specific? Like, is he like Ariana Grande's like says her fucking name? I would just, and you're like in the crowd, like waving your fucking like lighter, except it's over Zoom.
Who does that anymore? Everybody does their phone. It's phones.
Oh, true. You're doing it over like his Zoom concert.
I guess you turn 27 now, and you just like get old.
Okay, last question I have for this girl: is his music good? Do you know what I mean?
It seems like he's like making a living off of it. Maybe.
Yeah. Can we hear it?
I would love to hear it.
Facts though, if you fucking send us the songs of the ex-girlfriends, I feel like we'll be able to I think we'll be able to give you a much more like, hey, you should be worried, or I think you're fine. Like if we can compare a song about you and then a song about an ex. But part of me thinks if she's like concerned and worried about it, it's not like like Taylor Swift, we are never getting back together. It's a little bit more like, you know, Adele, when we were young.
Yeah, the one
that got away.
Yeah, that's like what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Hi, Megan, Melissa, and potential guest. I'm 21, bi, and a Cancer, calling in about some friendship advice. I know you guys like obviously aren't the arbiters of all queer issues, but hopefully you can be of some help. One of my oldest friends, who's a Gemini, posted a meme about straight people pretending to be queer. She's a lesbian and often posts things with a similar tone every so often. And while I know it's probably not about me, I have to admit that I've been taking it kind of personally. While I've dated like men, women, and non-binary people, I've only ever been in actual relationships with straight dudes. It feels like when she posts memes about who can say they're queer and who can't, I probably come to mind, along with several of our mutual friends who are bisexual and currently dating men. My question is, I'm really torn. Should I be offended by this, or am I making it about me? I tend to be really wary of invalidating other people's sexuality, but maybe she's also speaking on a real issue. Are memes like that biphobic or otherwise alienating to queer people? Also, how can I stop the nagging feeling that she's subbing me? And is that my own internalized homophobia making me insecure? Thank you guys. I love your show so much. Please be harsh if I need to hear it, or I don't know, if I'm not asking the right questions. All right, bye guys.
No, you do not need to hear harsh advice because
this isn't call for harsh advice.
And also you are a sweet Cancer baby, and I would never do that to you because my best friend Sydney is a Cancer. And if anyone says that they're a fucking Cancer when they call in, I was so much
listening to
empathy.
A podcast before this, and the lady was she's a psychic, and she was talking about like she was doing some event and it was like Cancer stuff, and so she was like, I've been going through all these people's emotions and now I need like a little break from that.
Yeah, it's like sponges, like full on like maternal, paternal, whatever, if there's a gender neutral term of parental some maternal sponges. I obviously like we can't speak on like you're saying, we can't speak on it from like personal experience, but I mean, I'm learning a ton about biphobia in like current day now, and a lot about how it is like super predominant, especially within like the LGBTQ IA plus community. And I think that like regardless of like what the issue is, like your feelings are valid. Like it doesn't have to be about you to feel like, if you feel, and like I think there's like a quote, I forget what the exact, like usually I use it in terms that are like much more condescending than this one, but if it's like if you read something and you feel like and you think that it's about you, like that's on, like I didn't say it was about you, like you said that.
Yeah.
But that also applies in these kinds of situations. Like if you read something and it kind of like rings true, I wouldn't necessarily say that that's just on you. That can be like, hey, my relationship with this person specifically makes me feel like that this could be about me. Not like as like a mass post from like a fuck Jerry account or something where you're like, oh, I feel personally attacked. It's like, this is someone who I know. And I would also think that like, at least for when I post something, like I think about obviously like how it will be interpreted, but like especially if there's something like about like a specific person that like I'm friends with, where I go, oh, actually what if someone thinks this is about them and it's not, like I'm not going to do that. And I think like, yeah, I mean, again, I can't come at it from like a critical eye because I'm not in that community, but it is a little like gatekeeping in a way that like most of like the people I know who identify as bi, I came to that realization and understanding when they were in like heterosexual relationships. And it's super common for people to, I have friends who've come out as bi, like once married, like once in like, and have never, and to this day have only ever been with men, but like that doesn't make them any less bi, any less attracted to women at all.
But, and you've dated women, it's just that you haven't been in a relationship with one. So it's not like, I'm just like, how you identify is how you identify. That's for you, and that's not for someone else. If she's saying things that you think are offensive or biphobic, then reach out to her. And maybe she doesn't realize what she's doing, or maybe she does know exactly what she's doing, and she's being disrespectful to you. So
yeah,
I think it's just worth a conversation with her.
No, totally, because these are such huge emotions to process of being like, is my friend biphobic or is this my own internalized homophobia? Like those are really fucking heavy things to process and deal with, and like that's not all on you at all. Right. Like that is something that like have that conversation with her and talk to her about it, because there's also ways to talk about issues that aren't alienating other members of the community. And like there are ways, like if you want to talk about like, like it's because it seems like the intention of the post was like, you know, like a straight girls queer baiting, if you want to talk about queer baiting and that kind of a thing, and having that be a conversation without also kind of lumping like bi people into that narrative and like making that big distinction, even if it wasn't her goal. Like it does, like you're right, it does kind of include like, you're like, oh wow, this feels like it could be about me. And I think the thing that I as a straight person, like I knew I liked boys before I ever kissed a boy or like had a boyfriend or anything like that. And it seems so backwards that doesn't apply for a lot of people, thinking about like people who are bi, where it's like, oh, you just, or even like the same thing that happens to gay people too. It's like, oh, you just haven't been with the right woman yet, or you haven't been with the right man yet. And it's like, no one invalidated your like heterosexuality when like you just had a crush, and you've never, like nobody at once ever invalidated my feelings for like liking boys before I had ever like been intimate with someone or had a boyfriend. But like as soon as it's something that's like not, you know, the traditional like heteronormative, it's like, oh no, like you don't, how can you know that? You don't know that. And it's like the same way that anybody know, like it's just a fucking fact. Yeah. And also the fact that like we're getting better with representation now, but even still, like we live in like a heteronormative society. So like it does make total sense why a lot of people would not come to that conclusion that like, oh, like if you didn't grow up knowing that and having it be accepted that like gender is a fucking construct, like cis people married cis people, like they're all of these different, like anyone can marry anyone, it all, like love is love and all of that kind of stuff. You didn't grow up in that kind of way. It can be really hard to identify, like if you can't identify with the things that you're seeing, how the fuck are you also supposed to know how you identify or how you feel? Because you're like, I've only ever seen one thing. So right. I didn't even know there's another fucking option to feel or think a certain way, to define the emotions of things I'm already thinking, I'm already feeling. Like I don't have the words for it yet or the knowledge or understanding. But I say talk to her about it. And I would really like urge you to not put it on you in the conversation and not be like, I don't know if I'm being too sensitive or I don't know if and totally feel free to tell me if I'm wrong. I would just point blank, be super honest, be like, hey, I saw that post you made and I'm not sure if it was your intention, but to me it felt, I definitely kind of took it personally and it felt pretty biphobic, and that's it. And not like a justification for her in that sort of a thing, because I think already just from how you've worded this call and also from all of the cancers in my life, tending to like absorb responsibility and like all of that emotion and like processing it for other people, and then kind of like processing your own emotions that other people have done for you, and then kind of giving back a watered down version to like make it easier and like to not put awkwardness on other people or uncomfortability on other people. But when someone makes you feel uncomfortable, it's not your responsibility to not make them feel uncomfortable as you tell them that they made you feel uncomfortable. Yep. But I would also think that this community of our podcast has a lot of great things to say. So if you guys are comfortable talking about it in the comments, please do on the YouTube comments. If you're also in our Facebook group, I'm sure there's a lot of other people who can relate to this kind of stuff, because I mean I just see fucking Twitter and like in Instagram infographics about it a lot and hear people talking about it, but I'm also not a part of the community, so exactly. I'm sure it's we can
only talk about what we've observed, but not from personal experience.
Maybe
but we should start doing like a phone a friend.
Yeah, true. But I've also learned so much about how like biphobia is just like ingrained in, or like the double standards of it is like so ingrained in our society, how like it's so like it's hot for two girls to make it out to make out with each other. And like my friends and I definitely all made out with each other in high school and that sort of a thing. And like I think back on it, I'm like, as far as, I mean, like I don't think I ever like questioned my sexuality, but like the fact that like it was just so,
you're just doing it to do it
and also doing it because like guys told us it was hot and in that way. But the same way, I have like friends who didn't come out, and I went to like a really progressive and inclusive high school, but I had friends who didn't feel comfortable coming out in high school, like guy friends who came out as gay. And it's like there is that double standard where like girl on girl hot, guy on guy not hot, like what, like that's these things that are socially acceptable versus not. But then also a huge amount of the reason why it's like girl on girls making out is like because straight men think it's for them, and like that's they just like have to own everything and like the whole thing is just like so absolutely fucked. So I think your feelings are very valid, and I think you should talk to her about it. Yep. Not nice. It's also like so not nice when you see someone post something and like you just feel like it's about you, and like not in like a funny like co-star astrology meme way,
or not like when somebody posts something like about a racist and then racists actually get triggered and they get angry about it.
And you're like, okay, so you are racist. Yep. So what you're saying, so you're telling me that the shoe fits. Okay. Ugh. Icky feelings. Well, sending you lots of love and support. And yeah, I hope this comes to like a satisfying and positive conclusion for you, even if it's not, maybe if it doesn't feel that way in the exact moment.
Me too.
Progress. That's the goal. Okay, guys, we're going to take a quick break and we will be right back. Okay, guys, we are back from our break, and we're getting into the rest of the calls.
Hello, Megan and Melissa. I just wanted to ask my question. I've been dating my boyfriend for 4 years, and we've talked about marriage pretty consistently for the past couple years. And his family and my family are very pro it happening. And I was kind of uncomfortable with it at the beginning because I didn't think I was ready. But I feel like I am ready now. And when I do talk, we talk about rings and it's all like very positive. But whenever I talk to my partner about it, he's always like, it's going to happen when it happens. And I want to be, it's not that I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm like, yes, it's going to happen. And I'm like so obsessed with it. But I feel like I'm at a stage now where it makes sense for me to have that thing happen in my life. I'm just wondering, how do I speak to him about it without sounding like this is an ultimatum and I want you to do it, but just being like, is it going to happen? Should I put my heart set on it? Because it is something that I want to do and he has said that he wants to do. I don't know. I don't want to sound like some crazy like person that's like, oh my God, you have to marry me and I'm going to be like unfulfilled if you don't. But it just seems that like I'm putting my heart into something and maybe he's not, or he's just like kind of blasé about it. Anyway, honestly, saying it out loud sounds really dumb, but everyone around me is like, yes, it's gonna happen, and I'm like, I really don't think it's not, but I do want it to happen, and I just would like some advice on how to speak to him without sounding like I'm desperate. Anyways, I love the podcast, and I really admire your honesty and the advice that you give to people. Yeah, it would just be really great to see what you say.
I don't feel good about this.
My thing is, like, they're looking at rings, they're talking about it, but she's not convinced.
Yeah.
So what is it that he's saying or doing that's making you convinced that it's actually not going to happen?
That's what I want to know too. And also when you said, I just don't want him to think that I'm desperate, that to me, I'm like, oh, homegirl, you've been dating for fucking 4 years. And if he's given you the feeling that you asking, hey, when is this going to happen? Like, just...
You know, you've been dating Monts for 4 years, and you know that you're getting married.
We talk every single day.
In your mind.
No doubt
There's
at all.
no doubt in my mind that they're getting married.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm confused about this, is that, like, we are in very similar positions in the sense that, like, Monts and I we've been dating almost 5 years now, which is fucking insane. But, like, I have no doubts where I stand and where he stands. And I think that the ultimatum question, I don't think that you're confident and kind of convinced that this is what he wants and he is going to do it, because it's not even like, I thought you were going to say like an ultimatum about like, I need to be like, ring by spring or whatever those fucking things are. But like, there's no timeline in like this like hypothetical ultimatum of yours. It's just that like, I want to get married. And I think that like, okay, so when you say like, well, I wasn't so sure, but like now I want to, like, at the beginning I wasn't so sure. Like, yeah, so 4 years ago, obviously, like that's kind of like a common thing. Like 4 years ago, I don't know if I knew I wanted to, like, I mean, I think I probably like knew after like a year of dating Monts that I was like, I feel like this is who I'm going to end up with. But like, I wasn't ready. And like the whole point is like, yeah, you keep dating and then until you reach the age in which you're ready. And so you are that now. And if he's made you feel at all that like you didn't want to 4 years ago, so like why, like you now is like being desperate, I think you need to like take away what everybody else is saying on the sidelines, like your friends, your family, like his family and all of that. And like, how is he when it's you too? Like, do you actually believe it, because I think there is like, you know, always that thing where people are like, oh, well, like, you know, he's probably just gonna propose like right now, and like that's why he's like being so shady about it. And it's like, yeah, maybe, but like also at the same time, like I don't know anybody who was so blindsided. I mean, I know a couple people who've been like completely blindsided by proposals, but most people no. And like the fact that like you're so unsure if you guys are on the same page, yet you still talk about it, makes me think, like you said, what is he saying or what is he not saying that makes you question it? Because like there is a way to say, like, I think if I didn't hear the tone of your voice and all of this stuff, like if there's a way, if you just told me like, oh yeah, my boyfriend says like, well, it'll happen when it happens, like then I'm like, ooh, like he just wants it to be a surprise. But everything else about this just makes it be like, oh, it kind of sounds like now it sounds like a cop out. Like now it sounds like a, you know,
it's
maybe
gonna happen, one day, maybe.
Yeah.
Potentially.
And also it's not, if you want to get married, like that's not like oh, I'm being a crazy girl who like will only date you if you like marry me. Like, no, like that's like, if you want to get married, that's a deal breaker. Like that doesn't make you annoying or make you controlling or make you like a certain kind of like person at all. Just like, if you want to, you want to. I want to. Bitch, I want dental insurance. I'm like, should we just get married now so I can hop on that insurance boy? But yeah, I think you have to have like a really like not an ultimatum conversation, because I don't necessarily think that if he's not all in, you don't, giving an ultimatum just means you have a dude who's not all in, who like is then just doing it. I think you need to have like a really honest conversation and just be like, hey, like I know we've talked about this like in hypotheticals and like our families and stuff, but like taking out everybody else's input and like feelings, like how do you feel? And like don't say what you feel first. Just let him like fucking take the reins of the conversation and be like, I want to hear your 100% honesty, because I think that's the way that you'll get the actual answer. Because right now it's just like so unsure. Like that's such a mind fuck. Like I'm just so confused by him. And you should never feel like desperate with a partner that you've had for 4 years, like ever. Like that's such, like that should be a feeling within your relationship that's like fucking eradicated. Like you should be like farting in front of each other, like fucking like just like burping in each other's face. There's like gross shit. Like it shouldn't be like oh, I don't want to come across as desperate.
Right.
Yeah, next call. Best of luck on this situation. Please let us know what happens.
Hi, Megan, Melissa. Hello. So I'm going through this weird thing where I just outed my rapist publicly online. It's been a few years coming, and it finally happened. It was the right time. And when I did it, 2 other women did it right after me and followed suit. Since then, our posts have kind of gained a lot of traction in our community. I've been gaining so many messages, so many new followers, having like a bunch of new people look at my stories. I'm not used to this much attention. And it feels like this is the first time my voice is actually being listened to and heard and respected. So now I'm faced with this point where I'm kind of a leader and spearheading this movement of outing rapists and keeping my community safe in my town. I'm talking to businesses, council people. It's weird. My question, I guess, is I'm having people reach out to me, kind of sharing their own personal traumas of sexual assault, etc. And I'm trying to be there for everybody. And I'm an empath, and I want to be there and support everyone as much as I possibly can. But I'm kind of burned out. I just broke up with my long-term boyfriend. I'm moving cities at the end of this month. I came out to my mother, and now I just outed my rapist, and a bunch of people are in my inboxes asking for guidance, support, and advice. My question is, how do you, especially as people who host this podcast, how do you manage helping others while also maintaining boundaries and taking care of yourself at the same time? I'm feeling kind of burnt out, but I also really want to keep this going and keep my voice heard and utilize it while I have it. I know this is a weird one, so if you have any thoughts or ideas, I would so love to hear it, and I really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
You're incredible.
Oh my God. And I can just like, I can totally see why people are like really gravitating towards you. Like even just your voice, like even just like how you speak in this, like You are like so dynamic and like engaging, and also like, yeah, it's incredible and so inspiring. First of all, congratulations for your fucking like life for this, and like being able to do this. Like, it's such,
and being an inspiration for other people too.
It's and I think that it can feel really hard to like carry the weight of that when it's something that is like so deeply personal to you, and like is such a personal win to have people like hear your story and hear you out on this thing that like you felt silenced for so long, and then have it kind of come with these like side effects of something that is really, really hard for you to talk about, and like listen and be there for people. We wholeheartedly understand that. I think the first thing I would say is work on shifting your mindset, because this temporary mindset that like people are only listening to me for like this amount of time, blah 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 blah, like taking advantage of it while you have it, it sounds really inspiring, but it puts so much pressure on you that this is like, you have this window of opportunity and like make the most of it. And this is your life. Like, this is your life, and it's also your trauma. Like, it doesn't have like a 15 minutes of fame sort of thing. And everything that you've done and your story, it helps people in years to come. Like, you don't have to actively be behind it every step of the way, and just putting something out there and talking about it one time helps people, and those people then help other people, and all of that. That responsibility is not on you to continue like a momentum of it, because like it's a momentum that is rooted in like trauma and healing, and that's not something that's like linear and something that you can then just like shed your own personal feelings for and kind of like power through. I think it's important to take breaks a lot of the time, and I think it might feel like a lot of pressure on you to respond to people, to hear people out, because you didn't feel like other people heard you out. But it's like what we say with all this stuff, like you can't like fill someone else's glass from an empty one, and you do need to create those boundaries. And I've talked with this with a couple of my friends who are also like YouTubers who've shared like mental health or trauma related stuff. And it just gets to a point where you have to pick and choose the people who you can respond to. And I think this is going to sound harsh, but also it can be really hard to help people if they haven't done any work in their own trauma and their own self-reflection. So like there are DMs that are like, it's just putting a lot on someone else, of being like, you saved my life, I wouldn't be here, like I don't know what to do, like you're the only thing in my life, like you're the only person who I can come to with all of it. It puts so much pressure on you for a situation and a person who you actually don't have any of that control over, of their life or their situation. But when other people feel like you do, it can make you feel like you do. And I think for you, like, if there are messages of people who are like, thank you for sharing your story, and if you feel compelled to answer certain people, but don't feel obligated to, because it sucks, you can't help, like in a way, like there's like a certain thing, like your story will help people, but that's a story that people can come back to and reflect on and think about and sit with. But you as a person, it is not your responsibility as like a living, breathing person in that moment to help people 24 hours a day, because you can't, unless they have to do so much of their own work to get to a place in which they can share that your story has helped them, and not have asked you specifically. Because you're already like, if you're talking to like local businesses and doing all that stuff, like you're putting in all of this fucking legwork to create like a safe system and like a community in place to like, or a system in place to make your community like a safer place and like more educated on the subject. But for a day-to-day sort of aspect, there are certain things you can't help.
Yeah, you can't help. And I think also you should be in a support group, so that, because you've got all these burdens on you and everything's holding you down, but like you still went through your own trauma. you're through it, but now you're carrying other people's trauma as well. And so like you asked us, like, how do we get through things with giving advice on this podcast? When the cameras go off, there's some things that we still like talk about off camera. And so having someone else to talk to that's gone through the same thing as you will help you tremendously.
Yeah, and there's also calls that we don't answer, and like there are certain things, and like I think the thing, and it's something I've really had to learn, is like you can only help people who want to be helped, and we can only do it at certain points. So like if one of us is like not doing so hot mental health wise, like we're not going to answer certain questions about it. Or there's like certain things in our own lives that like we don't answer questions on the podcast that pertain to that thing in our lives, because like 100%. We don't want to talk about it because it's not productive. Or there are calls that there's something where I think we've all been in that place. If we're like talking like depression wise, we've all been in that place where it's like I'm so depressed and like no one can help and I can't do anything, and then we can't do anything. So answering those sort of things is really, really hard, because at least for me, I know when I'm in like a good mental health place, especially with like DMs and that stuff, like I want to give like a cheat sheet, and like so people don't have to do go through the exact same thing that I felt. But I'm like, people could have said so much fucking shit to me when I was at this place in my life, and it wouldn't have mattered, because like I wasn't ready to get help. I wasn't ready to like feel better. And like, I was just like at fucking rock bottom, and I needed to be there for a while. And like, no one could fucking pull me out except me. And it can be hard when you are not at rock bottom and seeing somebody else there and wanting to surpass and skip over all of the fucking legwork that you had to do to pull yourself out. You want to like give someone the cheat sheet to do it, and you can't. And that's super, super hard. But I think it's making sure that you are in touch with your feelings and your emotions and creating boundaries. Like creating boundaries online, something that like I did a couple of years ago, like not verbally, but have done it like more so verbally now, where it's like there are certain times people like, you know, I'm doing a Q&A and I'm like, don't ask me about how I handle being depressed, because I'm not handling it well right now. And like, I don't have anything to tell you. Or especially people like, how do you stop picking your skin? I'm like, I don't know. I do it all the time. Like, yeah. It can be really hard to come out, because a lot of people don't come out and talk about things until they're past it. And then there's this idea that like trauma and mental health and all of that stuff, that like it's a hump you get over and now you're better and you're fine. And we can have like, you know, like Rachel Hollis and all those fucking bullshit self-help people to thank for that like it's a phase in your life, that like it's like a time in your life and you move past it, and you're not. And that's not how it works. And so you can't be the face of something like this, and people have a hard time not associating someone with like oh, this person has solved it, help me solve it. And you're like, I'm coping every day like every other person, and some days I feel good enough and strong enough that I can talk about it in a way that is intentional, and I'm not bearing too much of myself and putting too much of myself out there. Like I don't feel too vulnerable. I feel secure in what I'm saying and how much I'm sharing. And then other times I'm not. And I think if you can be explicit with those boundaries with people, and I would also just say too, is there's a huge distinction between people who like will send messages or whatever, who have like a really nuanced, great understanding of mental health. And I really appreciate those people. And I've thought about if I ever do anything talking about mental health explicitly again, I will specifically ask for people to form like their questions in a certain way of being like, there are certain things if you send me are just triggering and really hard, and I would never want to send you those specific things because they would also trigger you. And I think that people can detach that there's a human behind it. But I would prefer if you send me a message, you ask my consent first before you talk about something. Saying hi, like, hey, I get great messages of being like, hey, I'm really going through some like bad like mental health stuff right now. I would love to talk to you about it if you have the capacity and you're able to right now. And that's the message. And there's no more. And then it's like yes, I can say I'm there, or I'm like, I can't right now, but like, here's a great like resource or something like that. We need to normalize asking people consent before unloading trauma. And I think I've learned so much of that through the Black Lives Matter movement of like not unloading racial trauma onto people, and I've read some like just fantastic, like eye-opening articles about like how like we don't talk about trauma in general and shit like this enough, and so then the second someone opens the door, we fucking floodgate, and we need to start asking people consent for that, because it's like it's emotionally draining just as much as something's physically draining, and it's about creating those boundaries with the people that follow you and recognizing that you as a person and you as a story and what you put out there, your story is what is going to be super helpful, but you can't help individually every single person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
and
hard.
Even like in my personal life too, like someone that I know constantly calls, well, they were constantly calling me, and like before they even asked how I was doing, they would just go in on whatever issue they were going through at that moment. And at some point I just was like, you know what, like I can't deal with this right now. How about when you call me, and if you have a problem, first ask me how I'm doing, and then we can see if I'm able to deal with this. And then I can tell you like, yeah, go ahead, share. But it's just, I think it's the main thing here is just setting up your boundaries. And you said that you're moving soon too, so that might be a good reset of things as well.
And then also good content. Watch, like, get into funny shows, enjoy that kind of stuff. Like, give yourself like unplugging time. Like, if we have like a really heavy call in this, like I'll go, like watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine for a couple hours. Like, give yourself, this is like your trauma, it's not your life, you know? Like, there needs to be a distinction for you. But fucking amazing. Like, it's absolutely amazing. And it's also like you're just as amazing and impressive if you answer one message about this or none. Like, just sharing your story, there is no hierarchy of like what you should be doing with this, because you shouldn't even be in this position, but you are, and you're doing great things. Update time for an update.
It's time for an update. Update.
What episode? What's the original call? I was like, who is it?
This is from episode 10 from season 6. The caller, her boyfriend that she's been with for some years, said that he wants to be in a polyamorous relationship, and said that it was a deal breaker years ago, but has not acted on it. And so here's her calling back with an update to the story.
So, update from the girl and her boyfriend who wanted a poly relationship, mainly her boyfriend. So, to clarify, he's reminded me every 6 months of our 4.5-year relationship that he still wants that type of relationship. And I guess I've always been in a monogamous relationship, so I just thought maybe I was doing something wrong when he brought it up, thinking he wasn't serious about it. But it kind of became the main topic a few months ago when we started discussing marriage more seriously. And so we had to talk about his deal breaker, quote unquote. And it was so hurtful knowing that he would drop our relationship if I wasn't down to at least try. So I don't know what it's doing to me mentally. I probably need to go see a therapist now, but we agreed that we would try seeking the next 4 years before I decide to have kids. And if we don't find somebody suitable, then it would just be us. And I still don't know how to feel about this, but whether or not it ends up working out, I'll let y'all know. But yes, I agree that he can be a bit manipulative, sometimes even showing sociopath-like tendencies. But yeah, thank you for responding to my call, and I love y'all so much. Okay, bye.
Okay, before we were talking about him, now let's talk about you. I think that's where we need to go next, because what do you want? If this, like, you don't want to be in this relationship, you don't want to be in a polyamorous relationship. I mean, you want to be with him, but not with someone else. And it hurts your feelings, the thought of him thinking that there needs to be more people in this relationship. And so And you said that he has sociopathic tendencies. Like,
Does
why
this
are you with
sound
him?
like a fucking... I'm picture this is what all of the bitches who love Ted Bundy sound like.
Yeah.
Like,
why are you with him?
Like, you address that he can be manipulative,
Mm-hmm.
and I think, I mean, him bringing it up every 6 months, like, how'd you get out of that conversation every 6 months? For, like, you've done that 8 times. You've had that conversation 8 times.
At least.
So, like, what happens? Like, how does the conversation end? Like, and that's what, like, I'm going to need some, like, accountability on your end for, like, he brings that up every 6 months and you don't think he's serious.
Mm-hmm.
He's brought that up at least 8 fucking times and you don't think he's serious. So, like, how do you get out of that conversation every time? Like, do you get out of it by saying, like, you know what, like, let's think about, like, I'll think about, like, are you, like, you know, like, keeping that door open for him while, like, in your mind and, like, how you feel is, like, it's like a fuck no, but, like, are you making it sound like it is a possibility? Because, like, it,
Right.
that seems super fucking weird. And also, if you're knowing that you feel like you thought that he wasn't serious and it's just because he wasn't, like, getting enough from you, like, your communication skills are not there at all. If, like, that's how you felt after that, and, like, you're now walking into that and, like, going to try to do that, it just doesn't make sense. To therapize you, I wonder what, if you have any sort of you know, mommy issues, daddy issues of, like, not feeling like you are enough growing up, and this is your ultimate I'm gonna be enough, which I very much relate to as somebody whose type has always been fuckboy and, like, taming the fuckboy and all of that. I would analyze that in yourself of, like, and 100% go to therapy, but, like, it does seem like you want to win him. You want to win a guy who wants to be in a polyamorous relationship, and, like, weirdly enough, it doesn't even sound like you're, like, invalidating, like, polyamory at all. It's just kind of more like a self-loathing thing that this is, like, I should be enough. Like, you're putting all of this on you, and, like, it's like you're self-sabotaging in, like, a game that you can't win. And, like, that's something that, like, I've totally done, but that's something, like, fucking talk about that in therapy, because, like, you are putting yourself in the line of, you're consenting to put yourself in the line of fire and, like, get hurt repeatedly and, like, be with someone who actually explicitly makes you feel like you are not enough, and you interpret that in that way, as opposed to, this is something that my partner needs, and, like, I'm just going to take the next 4 years to, like, hope that, like, it doesn't work out so then it can just be us. Because I think
that's not how you go into a relationship. And you've got, like, you said this in this call and the call before, like, you're, like, dead set on having kids within the next 4 years. Like, is it that you just want a kid and he's been the one that you've been in the relationship with, so you think that this is who you're supposed to be with to father your kid? Like, what do you want from him other than just, like, a kid and all of his attention?
But I also wonder, and I question, because if you do have any sort of, like, self-worth, like, issues, if he does pick you, that won't satisfy anything in you, like, at all. Like,
and it's not going to satisfy him either, because it might not work out with this one woman, but he's like, okay, well, let's go.
So true.
Let's try somebody else. She might have not just been the one for us.
Yeah. If you want to be hurt, you want to be hurt right now in this relationship, and I've been there, and, like, but the thing is when that person if that person stops hurting you, it doesn't stop hurting you, because you're doing this to you. Like, this is, like, a self-loathing, I need to date someone who fulfills all of my most negative thoughts about me, of, like, I'm unworthy, like, I am not enough, like, I can't stack up to other people, and all of that sort of stuff. Like, that's your own feelings of yourself, and regardless of what he says or does, that doesn't eradicate those internal feelings of self-hatred and self-loathing. And that's something that you need to deal with in therapy, because, like, it's so easy to get caught up in the idea that, like, feeling chosen by someone will make like that will make that's all you need and all you want, but it's not. Like that's your like that's your like automatic, like that's kind of like what we like boil it down to is like that's what matters, and once I've been chosen then it's all good, but it's like it's not. And also you can't ensure to like someone's gonna pick you every day. Like you don't know, like, and that's what you need to work on yourself, to be like, you need to pick you, and how you feel about yourself can't be tied to how other people feel about you. Which like is ironic because like I high key struggle with this, but I truly think you just want to get hurt. Like this is just like fully want to. And yeah, like you said, like I don't know what you like what do you want from him? Because this is just, yeah, you're right. It's not like if the first person that doesn't work out with, it doesn't mean that like that goes away at all. I just think you guys are fucking both bad for each other, because I think like there's nothing that he should have been like stronger with his like deal breakers and bound like of like you shouldn't have been able to get out of the conversation 8 fucking times about his deal breakers and then like have it get to this point where it gets to that. But at the same time, you all should have respected that he had these deal breakers, and like you guys are just not good for each other in this situation.
You're not compatible. You both want 2 different things.
It's just not going to end well.
No.
So don't have a baby with him, and don't get married to him. It's not going to end well.
Wants to be monogamous, because that's what you want. And he should find somebody that's okay with the poly relationship, because that's what he wants. Neither one of you are going to change each other. No,
because it's not like both of those things can only be done when both parties want it equally. So, yeah, don't have a baby. Don't do this to a kid. If you want to have a baby, get a sperm donor and raise a baby.
Or find a guy that wants to be in a monogamous relationship.
But it's not fair to a kid.
It has all your values and everything that you have.
I guess that's it, right? That's it for our episode. We've recorded in so long. I'm like, how does this work? If you guys want to call in for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. And international listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Our Facebook group is still currently closed. Please stop asking if you can be in it. You can't. We're still vetting people.
The people that are still asking aren't listening right now, so there's no point in saying this.
I was pleasantly surprised, though. This is not coming out the same, obviously, because we pre-record episodes. But the last episode that we recorded, we like gave a shout out. We were like, if you guys were listening, like here are some emojis and content. And I was pleasantly surprised at how many people kept listening.
Me too.
Follow us on Instagram. Leave a review on the Apple Podcast app if you enjoyed this. Check out the video. If you're not subscribed, there's a new YouTube channel, the Don't Blame Me YouTube channel, where these live. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me, executive produced by Melisa Monts, edited by Katrina Henning, and music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.